Hello and welcome to episode 5 of this Growth Strategist chat series. I'm delighted to be joined today by none other than Gordon Tredgold. Gordon, how are you?
I'm very good, actually.
It's
And
good to see you.
yourself?
And yeah, good. I'm good. And we've already had a bit of a chat. And you're from Yorkshire, as my grandfather was. And so this is going to be a plain speaking, no nonsense, down to the point chat. I know that, which is great. And
Boots off, no messing.
yeah, exactly. So just a bit of background for the audience on Gordon. So Gordon is a transformational leadership expert. He's in the top 10 globalgurus.org, obviously globally, and author of a book which I've recently read and I'm recommending over here this week in a government program in Ireland, a government business program called FAST, 4 Principles Every Business Needs to Drive Success. That's not the full title, but we can talk about it in a little while. Fast, yeah. So Gordon, welcome. It's great to see you, and you come highly recommended. And I'm interested in your background and how you got to where you are today, and how you ended up, working in this whole area of transformational leadership.
So I started, straight out of university, I started working in IT, and I worked for a company in Leicester called British Shoe Corporation, who owned all of the high street brands, Dulces, Trueform, Saxon. Yeah. And they had a very clear structure: 6 months as a trainee programmer, 12 months as a junior, and then as a programmer, senior programmer, project leader. And in like 10 years, you could become a project manager. And I thought, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. That's far too slow. So how can I accelerate the growth up this ladder? Because I'm pretty good at what I do. And I decided that if you want to make waves, take on the more complicated projects, those things that other people don't want to do, and try and be successful in them. And I did that. And I have a background in mathematics. I'm a problem solver. Yeah. I was a rugby front row forward, so head down charge. And that mix of determination and problem solving ability allowed me to deliver projects that other people thought were not possible. And the other thing that you can do is, if you take on something where people say this is doomed to fail, and then they say, and this is how you want you to do it, you can say, excuse me, if it's doomed to fail, I think I will figure out how we're going to do it, because the prescribed thinking ends in failure. So let's just throw that out and let's go. So it allowed me to challenge a lot of thinking and ways of doing things, and I just built a reputation from it from there, and then got involved in delivering more complex things, get involved in becoming project manager and then departmental leads, and I ended up running a global team of 1,000 people, working for companies like DHL and Henkel, responsible for, I think at DHL we delivered 600 projects in the 2 years I was in the US. But we took our on-time delivery from 21% up to 80% by challenging the conventional wisdom, which doesn't sound like a smart thing to do. But when you fail 79% of the time, clearly the conventional wisdom is incorrect.
Not working.
So and that's how I came up with FAST. I'm a bit of a deep thinker, and I started looking at what are the common reasons for failure. And found that I'm quite that background in mathematics makes me quite structured and analytical. So I was then able to step back and try and analyze the structured approach. And could I make that into a repeatable process? Because clearly I can, if I keep doing it. Now can I create that into a repeatable process that I can make simple and easy to understand for others to use? And then that's how I came up with FAST, and that's what I coach and teach people and practice now.
And that really resonates with me, because I don't come from an analytical background. I started life as a lawyer, actually, for 13 years. My 13 years was a commercial lawyer.
Law doesn't involve analysis.
Well,
you probably books than anybody I know.
Law, it's funny you say that because lawyers are a bit like engineers. They're linear thinkers. So they think one thing at a time, and they're very structured. Yeah. They're very organized. But I found after 13 years that I'm a natural born entrepreneur. Like I'm basically unemployable. I'm a coach, consultant. I've written. I've been an entrepreneur, and they're not really out of the box thinkers. So I ended up going into business and I ended up becoming a CEO and a coach and consultant in later years. But I looked at the same thing as you. So I worked for, I was chief counsel for American companies and CEO for an American company in Australia. And I just saw so many disconnects, so many reasons for companies not being optimized. So I looked at it from the more human interaction perspective. And I've come up with, what I call the 7 steps for successful growth.
Yeah.
And mine wasn't created from an analytical perspective. It was more from a relationship, common sense perspective. But I think they're the same thing. And so back to your FAST methodology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me just expound on that. So initially, it was about the solving the problem, but once you get promoted, you're now leading the team, and then you get promoted again, and you're leading people that lead teams, and then you get promoted again, and you're leading people that lead people that lead people that are leading teams, and now you're so far from the problem that it's all about the people, and that was the breakthrough that I had, because if it's about solving the problem, there are only so many problems I can fix in any one day. But if I can deal with the people aspect of it, and then create that culture that deals with in the same way, now my power or now my influence is unbounded. And that's how you make that step from being a good manager, good leader, to being being able to lead a team of 1,000 people, because you can't control 1,000 people. You've got to empower them, and that's all about the people aspect of it. So my focus changed from the technical to the people as I stepped back.
Okay, and that resonates with me because, as I said, I see so many disconnects in companies, and because there are so many roles and so many silos, it's very easy for people to hide in organizations, and therefore companies aren't optimized. And you must see it a lot,
I was in Florida, and I was at a local. I can't remember. It was kind of like it wasn't a Rotary Club meeting. It was some meeting, and the mayor of Boca Raton stood up and they said, "This is our strategy. We want to blah 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 blah, and these are our goals. We're going to do X, Y, and Z." I was like, but they've got nothing to do with the strategy. You just mentioned, and you think there's a disconnect between what you want to do and what you're gonna do, and then you're going to be surprised when the results aren't what you expected or needed. And I see that so many times and now that my brain is trained towards it, and when I talk about trained, I just mean opening my eyes and looking. It's a lot easier than you think. And then these things will just jump off the page at you and go, this doesn't fit. This doesn't fit. You want to eat more and lose weight. Well, how do that doesn't work, or you want to be you want to be innovative, but we've got to take zero risk. Well, those two things don't go together. And there's, as I say, once you make that switch in your mind, and it can be quite frustrating because you're just walking through a sea of contradictions.
Exactly.
It does give you things to, and I see it all the time. I'll be in an airport going, this queue is not right, and I'll start changing things. Or I'll see that the how do you feel about our service button is put in a corner, but the people are walking in. If they're not going, you now want me to dive. No, that's not going to work, and I pull them over here. And
that all resonates with me, and the fact that I get the strong sense that you like to take what are perceived to be complicated things. I think a lot of people in organizations say, "Oh, it's too difficult," right? And at the end of the day, everything can be simplified. So I came down with this when I was an exec for BHP in Australia. I came up with a 3-pronged strategy when it was called risk, revenue, reputation. Companies are only ever really interested in three things: risk, revenue, the three R's, right? Stop waffling on about stuff and think about those three things. And I presented to the board, and there actually was, we didn't realize this was so simple, but you've been running this company. So is that what motivates you, is to make, demystify the complex?
Do you have an MBA?
I do, yeah.
In any of the MBA classes, did they put up a triangle with risk, reputation, and revenue?
Never.
But I've never heard that before.
The three R's, I call it the three R's.
That's one of those things. Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, oh my God, I have a triangle shaped here, and that just plugs right in. Now, I haven't thought about it because that's not necessarily my area, but yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm looking to do, and certainly for leadership, to get people to just, because I read a book called, I don't want to give the title of it, but it was about the simplification of leadership. I have a degree in mathematics. I read chapter 1, I thought, I don't get this. I read it again, I thought, I still don't get this. I read this a third time, I thought, if you have to read something that makes things simpler three times,
it's not working.
No. So
exactly.
I'm all about trying. So exactly the same as you: revenue, risk, reputation.
And reputation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
It. Now, if we take that and we say, okay, show us your strategy. Which of the do you have an element for all three of these? Because the better the reputation, the higher the revenue. The higher the risk, the bigger the risk.
I even go further.
Revenue and reputation.
Exactly. I even go further. And when people say, I can't visualize the triangle, I think of a three-legged stool, right? And each leg needs to be the same length. And if one leg's a bit shorter, it's going to fall over. Oh, I didn't think of it that way. So that's why. So that's why I think your work resonates, because you demystify the perceived complex things. Business isn't really complex. It's about getting money in. It's about treating employees with respect. It's about treating customers with respect, and it's about preserving your assets. And so your engagement. You talk about providing leaders with the tools for engagement, performance, and profits. I mean, if you were going to go into an organization, right, and it was, you could walk in today and you saw, oh my God, it's so complicated. It's so complicated. Hiding behind all these silos and theories. How would you go in and start the process of simplifying that?
So the first question is, what are you going to simplify? So I don't start with simplicity. Simplicity is my ultimate goal, but I need to figure out what we're going to simplify. So I just take the FAST approach. So FAST is about focus. What's your goal? What's your objective? What does success look like? Accountability is who's involved. Do they know what they're supposed to do? Do they have their tools? And do we have a way that we're going to hold them accountable? And you can't hold people accountable. People have to hold themselves accountable. But we have to facilitate that. We can hold them responsible, and we can check up on them, but they have to accept and accountable. Then there's simplicity, which is about the how. How are we going to do this? Can you people say to me, oh, I want to. It's like if I told you we were going to put a man on the moon by Friday tea time, the first question you're going to ask me is, how are you going to do that? And if I can't give you a reasonable explanation, you're going to say, that guy's smoking crack, that'll never happen. But if I tell you we've been working in secret and we've got our rocket ready, we've trained all these astronauts, we've done all of these trials, this is the paperwork, this is the plan, this is the destination, you go, oh, you know what? That might work. So the how, it's about, do you know how you're going to be successful, and can you explain it to people? So, my business wants to increase revenue by 30% by next year. Okay, tell me how you're going to do that. I'm not sure. Well, if you're not sure, then it's not going to happen. If you can tell me, we're going to increase pricing by 5%, we're going to increase sales by 5%, and we're going to introduce 5% new products, and the cumulative effect of that will be a 30% increase in revenue. That's I can buy into that. And then the last part is the transparency. And transparency is two things. Do you understand what's involved? So I run marathons, and people tell me, I can't run 42 kilometers or 26 miles. Sorry, it's not about running 26 miles. It's about spending 6 months and running 500 miles in training. If you can do that, then you can run a marathon.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, then I don't care how fit you are, you're going to struggle to do it.
Yeah.
And then do you have that feedback loop? So if we're going to increase revenue by 30%, are we checking that every week, every month to say, are we on track? Are we on track? Are we on track? So where would I start? So my first question, well, a lot of times, if it's an organization that's not working, I would ask them, score yourself out of 5 in focus, accountability, simplicity, and transparency. And wherever you score lowest, fix that.
Yeah.
Because you're failing because you're doing the wrong thing. You've got the wrong people doing it, or you don't know how to do it, or you don't know where you are on the journey.
Yeah.
But failing that, if they come back as even, and I would come back and I would start with what's our goal, what's our objective?
Yeah.
And exactly as you've done, as soon as you said that it's risk, revenue, reputation, now it's not that we've simplified. We have simplified things, but what we've said is these are the 3 things that matter. So anything that's driving anything but those 3 things, we can ask the question, so why are we doing that again?
It's like we've made a clearing through the thick woods. Correct. And those 3 R's are standing there. It's
correct.
That's the what
we can see the forest through the trees.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can see the forest through the trees because it's like, we've got this new car policy. Well, does it improve risk, revenue, or reputation?
Yeah.
Well, actually, the better cars our execs drive. Yeah. Okay, I can see that. So this is reputation linked. Yeah, go ahead and do it. Or
I can almost see the FAST methodology actually leading to the 3 R's. I can almost see that.
Yeah,
that is the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. That certainly for businesses. What are you doing to drive those 3 things? Because the reputation is branding and marketing. Exactly. The revenue is the sales, and then the risk is
it's leadership. It's people. It's all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I try and do the same things with leadership because leadership gets over complicated, and people talk about we need authentic leadership. For me, and I apologize to anybody who's a fan, 2 of the most authentic leaders I've ever met, 3 of the most authentic leaders I've ever met in my life or seen in my life, Donald Trump, Boris Johnson and Margaret Thatcher, they were completely true to who they were.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't follow any of them 2.5 meters. So it's not about, so being authentic, being the right authentic is good. Just being authentic, if you just being authentic on its own isn't good. People can trust who you are, but if that leads them to not like the person that you are, then they're not going to follow you.
That's a good point.
I could always trust Margaret Thatcher to be Margaret Thatcher.
No, it's a good point as well. No, that's a great point. There's a difference between authentic. I'd never thought of it like this ever. It's a difference between authentic leadership, but there's also useful authentic leadership. It's a difference.
Yeah. So this comes back to the focus. If you're focused on being authentic and you're an asshole, being an authentic asshole isn't going to help you. It's not useful. What it's useful is to go, I thought he was an asshole, and clearly it's not going to make you a better leader. So it's about exactly those kind of things. So simplifying leadership, and I did a talk in Morocco, and the person that spoke before me talked about leadership. Is leadership common around the world? And there'd been a 10-year study, and the book, it was one of those books which if you dropped it on your foot, you'd probably break 3 toes. And it was and what they'd done is they looked at 72 different leadership criteria, qualities, and they'd gone to every country in the world and they'd scored against these 72 criteria to see whether there was any commonality. And their conclusion was there's no common leadership approach. It's different from country to country. 2 countries might be the same, but I mean, I lived in Holland and Germany, which share a border. You would think that they're both kind of Germanic, very similar, and yet the leadership in those 2 countries is completely different. Germans, you tell them what to do, they'll follow it in Holland. The first thing they'll say is, "Why should I do that?"
It's amazing. It's amazing the differences. I've just spent 10 years living in Australia. So I've got a bit of an Aussie accent. I'm English, but I lived in Australia for 10 years, and I'm back in Ireland. I've lived in Ireland for 10 years, Australia for 10 years. And in Australia, business people would say, leaders would say, "Yeah, that's a great idea," or "No, mate, I'm not interested," right? They'd be really brutally frank, right? Whereas in Ireland, it's the opposite, right? In Ireland is a great place to network and have great, fun and stuff. But it's actually a very difficult place to do deals because the Irish don't like generally saying no, right? So it's amazing how different cultures can be. It's just incredible.
Yeah. So the conclusion from this woman was that leadership is different from country to country. And she said of the 72 criteria, there were only 4 that were common. So given there's only 4 that are common, leadership's different. And she said, and the 4 that are common are: 1, set a clear strategy; 2, don't micromanage people; 3, support them when they're in difficulty; 4, provide recognition and feedback.
Wow.
I said, does anybody have any questions? And I put my hand up and I said, could you tell me what the other 68 things were you were asking? Because those 4, vision, give people the space to be successful, give them support when they need it, and give them recognition for a good job well done. If I was to define leadership as 4 things, that would be it. Yeah. And so your book hasn't confirmed that leadership is different. You've confirmed that leadership is the same the world over, and it's very simple. Give people a clear goal, give them the space to do it, give them support, and give them the recognition.
It's funny. Gordon. Sorry. Carry on.
No, I was saying. So I was like, it's you've overcomplicated it, and you've come up with an incorrect answer. Whereas it actually, when I look at your study, I think, wow, this is brilliant. You've simplified it, and leadership is the same the world around, but it's not what we thought it was. And I can confirm that because when I led a team of 1,000 people, I was global head of service delivery. So I had teams in Asia, India, Australia, Africa, America, and I was based in Dusseldorf in Germany with a team of Germans. And that approach was one that worked with everybody. Yeah, it worked with everybody because you've chunked it up. You've made it simple. Exactly. You've taken it down to revenue, risk, and reputation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So I could talk to you. I could actually talk to you for hours because clearly we think in a very similar way. So I spent my life making complicated things, going back 20 years when I wrote a book on e-commerce, simple, right? And I like to break things into chunks. So you've mentioned the 3 R's. I've also written books on deal closing. I call it the 7 P's of deal closing. And then also when I collaborate, when I go into business with other people, I'm 52 this year, and this has taken me the longest to come up with this, but now I have a little self-check. So do I trust them? B, and they have to be cumulative. And do I respect them? And even if those 2 pass, I have to like them, right? And so that I have to set those 3 gates. And I think if more and more leaders think in these simple gates and these simple buckets, I think organizations will flourish.
So my simple buckets, fast. Am I clear what it is we're trying to achieve? Yeah. Do I know who's involved, and have I communicated to them clearly and given them the tools to do it? Have I communicated, and do I understand how we are going to do it? And do I know what's involved, and do I have a clear feedback mechanism for keeping us on track? And if I get a yes to every single one of those, I know our chance of being successful is in the 80 to 90%.
Yeah.
If I get a no to any of them, then we're facing a risk and we're looking at failure. So I do exactly the same. Am I fast, focused, accountable, simple, and transparent?
That's perfect. So we're running out of time. I could talk forever, but if you were going to whisper 2 or 3 words of wisdom to a younger Gordon Tredgold to set you up for success in life, if you were going to go back, say, 30 years, what 2 or 3 words of wisdom would you whisper into your own ear?
So I think that So 30 years ago, I'd have been 30. I'm 60 this year.
Okay.
I think I would have said to myself, and something that I knew from sport, but forgot about in business, and that is that it's all about the team and the people. The technology and the problem is interesting, but the more you can understand and lead people, the more success you're going to have. So, yeah, all that stuff that you're really good at, make the flip to applying it to people earlier. And I think I would have been much more successful if I'd done that earlier. And then the other thing I would have done is I would have, I started writing when I was 52, and I'd never written before. And because I'm not a good writer, and I have school records that confirm that, and I would have just told myself, ignore all the naysayers.
Exactly.
If you want to write, go write.
Do it. Yeah, because you're clearly a clear thinker. You're very clear thinker.
I'm English. Yeah. I'm English. I'm from the land of Shakespeare, Chaucer, Dickens, and I used to think, I don't write like them. And I used to think to myself, but I never read their books because it's too bloody complicated. I'll just write. So simplicity, the power of simplicity.
Yeah. That's perfect. Well, it's been really a pleasure talking to you, and I definitely want to keep in touch. And maybe there's a project to connect the fast to the 3 Rs, but we'll talk about that another time. And so,
absolutely.
How do people find out more about you and your work and connect with you?
Simplicity. I'm the only Gordon Tredgold in the entire world. So if you Google Gordon Tredgold, you'll find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. My email is gordon@gordon.com. And if you want to get my fast book, it is available on Amazon. If you want to get the audio book, email me at gordon@gordonTredgold.com. We're doing a discount at the moment. I think it's €4.99. We're selling at 50% discounts. If you'd like to get the audio where you get to hear my dulcet tones, then just email me for that.
That's perfect. Thanks, Gordon. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I'd love to keep in touch. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.